this season. And we are live. Musty Wargamers Season 8, Episode 1. Oh, yeah, Episode 1. Season 8, Episode 1.
Yeah, there we go. That's Season 10, Episode 15. The Time Warp is here.
Some people might recognize where I am because this is basically the Musty Lounge from Season 5 or 6. It was always on the page. That was our background. But, yeah. This is the Musty Bar. We got folks in the house already. Just giving a shout out to the early birds, both Clyde Dashing I saw in first, as well as Anax. Thanks, guys, for joining our first episode of Season 8 tonight. We have got my longtime compadre, Hellcarex, a.k.a. Punisher, or a.k.a. Rusty. We've got Broken Dice, a.k.a. Tim, who is now, a member since last season on the show for every week. And Dan, Farmer Dan, unfortunately, is actually farming at the moment. And so he's unable to join us for this particular
episode. It so we can all eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Corn and soybeans.
We've got a very silent mouse that has also just joined in. Hello, sir. Thanks for joining. And just one thing I'll just get out there real quick is that we do have two topics tonight. Interesting topics. One of them is going to be what are your favorite ways to strategically place terrain in your games? And then I don't think we've ever covered that. Like we talked a lot about terrain. We've never covered exactly that question before. And then another one is hobby. We used to always kind of switch gaming to hobby. Another one is,
hey, that's a lot better. Tim?
What be the most recent thing what's the most recent thing you incorporated into your hobbying style? So like, is there anything different that you actually do in your painting, your hobbying, modeling that you didn't do before? Crown of Command Games, Joshua's also joined in. Thanks for joining, Joshua, for our, keep saying it, Season 8, Episode 1. And we've got the Lord of Mordor in the bottom. He's going to keep us in check tonight. And then we got Rusty's actually out at the space station tonight. You've been there before, lots of times in past seasons.
Yeah, I'm out here in space, just coming out here. It's like a little bit out there chasing down alien pirates. But
Mr. Freeze. Out in space at the space station. Anyways.
Anywho.
Yeah.
So, in true Musty Wargaming fashion, we will keep the same format. And we will start out with people doing their updates of what they've been up to before we get into the topics. And sort of like, so just as a refresher, since it's the Season 1, usually what we do is we talk about what kind of gaming we might have been doing, if we are. We talk about any sort of hobby projects that we might be involved in, sometimes show them on the screen if we can. And if you're partaking in a musty drink, we share that as well. And it doesn't have to be alcoholic. It could be caffeine. It could be anything.
It's caffeine for me this late.
So why don't we start clockwise, which is what we typically do, and we'll go to Rusty.
There we go.
Got the old clock going. Well, howdy ho, everybody, and welcome to the new show, new season, and everything that's going on. That's game-wise. I haven't played a game since we played right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know why we haven't been playing anything. It's like there were a couple of times we thought about getting together, and Mel, it's like, I'm going to go hunting. I was like, okay. So,
kind of like a busy time of the year.
Yeah, that kind of thing going on. My son and I have talked about, well, I can't say I haven't played. I played Magic the Gathering a few times. So with my son, it's like, he's like, hey, Dad, could you show me some of your Magic cards? And I broke them out, and he was like, and it's like, you want to play with those? It's like, sure. And it's like, that's like $20,000 of cards you're playing with. I guess. I don't know. So we played some Magic, a little bit of that. But I've been doing some painting and stuff. Obviously, be prepared to drink. Currently, what I have finished, what's on the finished table, if you want to go large screen there. Hey, there we go. We got some BattleTech miniatures. This is the Mercenaries from the latest Kickstarter. This is all popped in from the latest Kickstarter. So we got some mechs and vehicles. This is all new stuff that came out since we just got our Kickstarter here recently.
Nice.
I think we're one of the last ones to get ours. It's like my family. It's like first in, last in, or out type of thing, I guess. Kind of irritating in a way. I've been working on this guy. I got this Mad Cat / Timberwolf here. That's the 15. So if you want to compare size, this is your typical mech size right here.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little big.
Yeah. It's the granddaddy.
Yeah, and I'm also doing some cool stuff that, put this guy right here. I printed off some elementals so he can go on the base.
Yeah,
so,
I saw those on your update.
So true scale elemental. Who just
Nice.
died.
That is one big mech.
Yeah, it's like the elementals are the size of actual 20. It's like, where's the flea at? Here we go. Here we got an elemental versus a flea, 20-ton flea. It's like,
yeah,
you can tell his size. He's like the same size as the little flea, 20-tonner.
Wow.
And these guys are 5-tonner, so yeah, they do a good job. I got some that are jump jet capable. And my plan is I printed off and put some on the big guy. So he's going to have some on his base. And I 3D printed off a large hex base.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to have them on the base. So it's going to be like typically when you're playing the game, you have a little hex base with some little elementals on it. I made a large scale one. So.
All right. Cool.
So that's that. So I'm working on those tonight. So I'm going to be working on this Mad Cat, finishing this Mad Cat up and these elementals. Probably that's what I'm working on. I also have some vampire count stuff. If I really feel ambitious, I work on that. And since we got Halloween showing up,
oh yeah,
the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, so something big. We'll go over there with sitting next to over by the TV there, along with my bus. So I want to get this one done. Maybe get a little bit of work done on him tonight too. So
cool.
The drink of choice is Glen Moray 12 year Scotch.
Very good.
So
hear that opening goodness.
yeah. Just a little bit of 12-year-old Shawantra.
How about you, Tim?
Oh, well, let's start off with projects. Actually, what I'm working on right now is I'm getting all my metal miniatures cleaned up and assembled, and I'm going to prime them before the weather goes to crap. And
I've been
to get that stuff primed. So I've assembled some Viking Dark Age command groups that I had just, that pile of, let's see what they call it now, a pile of opportunity.
Yeah.
But
that's no longer a shame.
It's no longer. We ought to be positive. Let's put a positive spin on it. Anyway, I got all those out. I also ordered some metal Scottish troops for my English Civil War.
Yeah.
And from Warlord Games. So they came in. I've got those all assembled. Well, actually, they're just one-piece models. But I've got them based up and primed. So I'm ready to start painting those. I was doing some kind of like ad hoc build, some Scottish Lancers, because you really can't find the Perrys make some, but I have the spears, and I just took the regular cavalry guys from Warlord and chopped off some guns and got my little drill to work, and was putting that one out there and saying, okay, here we go. Let's drill some holes. So I've got those. Matter of fact, I got this background thing may not be good for showing minis. I never tested this out.
Yeah, that I don't know. Yeah, that's
there
true.
we go. There we go. But
that works great.
You see, I cut out like.
Let me focus in there.
There we go. Like some of them, I took out the guns and just drilled the hands out and put some spears in there, and I put them on the base kind of like offset, like they're a little less disciplined, let's say, a little bit more open order kind of cavalry.
I really like those. I actually mentioned that on your video. I think they look really nice.
I think I'm getting kind of excited. I really want to get to painting them, but I really saw these metal models I had, and I thought, man, I know I'm going to go back, and I know I'm going to start working on some ancient stuff, and it's going to be a long winter. I might as well get these suckers primed while I can, and then I can get them primed and put on bases and just ready to go as soon as I get them in the queue, let's say, and get ready to go. What I got on the desk right now in front of me is some Dark Age Saxons. I'm getting ready to put, I've got them all cleaned up, ready to put the weapons on them, put them on bases. And let's see. Oh, I guess I did a video on the last unit I did. It's the one with the extended base for the pike. Yeah, it's like right here.
He reaches in and
there we go.
Oh, now you're going off into the mountain like a giant.
Oh, am I?
Disappearing behind a mountain top there.
I disappeared.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, but you can see the extended base. I've seen others do that. What are we doing here? What are we doing? There you go. That's a little bit wonky. I don't know if I like this or not.
No, it doesn't work for show and tell, does it?
It does not work for show and tell.
It works if you have it closer to you, but not if you move it towards the camera. Apparently.
All right, but you can see
right there. It looks good. Well, the further you move it away from you.
Yeah, if it's right in your face,
you gotta have it in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. You see how it's kind of extended that way.
Looks good.
I've seen guys do this for a long time, and I just never done it.
Yeah.
And I wished I had done it all along now.
Right.
And I did. I got those done, and
there we went. Okay.
2 sleeves of shot to go with them. Basically the same way. That's kind of where I'm at. Oh, and gaming. I've been able to get. Obviously, I did a couple of videos. I did my videos a little different this time. More like just a recap, and not like a blow by blow. You know, every dice roll and all that kind of stuff. I did that. Exclaimed another. Yes. So yeah, it's been kind of a good month, other than my back.
Yeah.
Actually,
you bounced back.
The back's getting better. It's been 2 months, and if I'm up moving around, the morning is the worst. I climb out of bed, and man, it's like I'm 90 years old. It's like it hurts so bad, and first thing I have to do is ice it in the morning. Put a big ice pack on it in the morning. And then I get up and move around a little bit. Then a little bit later on, put some heat on it, do some stretching, and get up and just do some things. And by about 10:30, 11, it starts feeling like normal. But that's the danger part, because that's why I was getting better, and then I hurt it again because I thought I was so good. I would really jump back into my workout routine way too soon, and couldn't just like slow play it, right?
Yeah.
I got to jump in with both feet to the deep end and let's go now. And now I'm really paying the price for it, because they were working on my back the other day, and it felt like she was just grinding gravel in my back.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
It did not feel it. It felt, it didn't hurt, but you could feel that grinding.
Yeah.
And that's what was the worst part of it. It's like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah. Well,
Come
I'm glad,
in.
I'm glad to see that you're able to hobby and stuff though, and kind of.
Oh God, there for a while, that for about a month there, I could sit for like 5 minutes and then I'd have to stand up. And I tried painting, and it's a nightmare. Let me tell you, it's no. Rusty can tell you. I mean, now see, it was so funny because Rusty could sit, but I couldn't sit. I had to stand or lie down.
Yeah,
and neither one is very conducive for hobbying. It just like I've actually tried to paint lying down on my back. Oh, that's impossible. That's just like, no, I can't do that. No, there was no way I could do that at all.
well, I'll let you know that Sunday I was cooking some chicken cordon bleu and chicken Kiev in the oven, and I was bent over to pull it out of the oven when it was done, and my back went on Sunday.
Oh goodness!
It was the muscle group. It wasn't the bone structure. It was the muscle group, and it was like right where the incision was, and it felt like it went tore.
Oh, wow!
So I was like 20,000 colorful metaphors and explicitives.
Yes.
Later, I was like, so. Today I had to run down and pick my mother-in-law and take her to her eye appointment. And it's like driving in the vehicle. I was like, it was just hurt because all the seats are made to push.
Yes.
Have lumbar support. And no, it's just any bit of pressure on my lumbar area. It's just like agony. It's like feeling someone's twisting and driving something in.
So, actually, that actually shows up pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
This is the sign that I need to share my musty drink, so it's my turn because I'm getting ready to have some.
My musty drink is caffeine.
Yep.
And I'm going to need it.
There you go. Well, I'm going to begin and close with a musty drink on my update, which won't take long because I do have something special for my musty drink, but this is just to wet my whistle after dinner. It's one of my favorite beers to have at the house. Actually, I really love Stella Artois. It's a nice dry beer. It's really nice. It's a nice dry wet beer. And so I'm going to start with that. So cheers. Oh, look at that. It's disappearing. So cheers.
It disappears.
To season 8. Battletech. So as far as gaming goes, exclusively old world at the moment. I've actually switched after playing 1 or 2 games of Beastman since coming back from Iowa. I ended up switching over to Orcs and Goblins, and so I've been playing Orcs and Goblins, and I've had a couple of games and enjoying that. I'm enjoying playing. They've done very well in the test games that I played, 1,500 points. I've been using my Wyvern that I recently painted, and then in the last game, I also used an Arachnarok with it. So between Black Orcs and a Bolt Thrower, some Goblins with bows, and a Mage, and trying to think. I also had a big line of Savages Orcs in there, and they did really good. They did really good. And I'm looking to actually start maybe playing a little bit of sharp practice, doing a little bit of French Indian war painting. I'm going to ease into it, maybe paint a unit of my French Indian war miniatures, and then go back to another fantasy unit. I've been painting fantasy for a long time, and I'm kind of having that. It's not so much getting tired of painting fantasy as much as getting missing painting some French Indian war is what it comes down to. And I can only do one thing at a time, so that's a problem apparently. And so as far as what
embrace the chaos.
Yeah, as far as what I have been painting, I put up on my channel my Wyvern that I did, and so I don't have that in front of me, but what I'm doing right now is some grots. What is it? Snotlings.
Snotlings. There you go.
So I've got some Snotlings, and I've got 2 other bases like this that I'm painting, but I also have 3 other bases that are not even started painting yet. I'm working on this Bolt Thrower, which I don't have painted, but I did actually bring into a game. And so I have the 3 crew member and the bolt thrower. I also have Doom Diver, and I have the crew and like the extra guy.
Oh, that's the new Doom Diver.
Yeah, metal, but probably not the old one. Yeah, and
that's a new one.
I've been tinkering away because I'm not sure. I've primed 10 of these plague bearers, and I've got actually 30 or 40 of them. I think it's 40 actually to do, because I am in the new year going to be doing a Nurgle themed Daemon army for Old World, and so I've got that. I'm kind of just messing around, like just priming them and doing stuff to get them ready. Like basically, it takes so much time to clean up the metal models and then like put the putty on the bases and then prime them and like do all that stuff, that I'm just going to have that ready for when I want to paint them. They're all going to be primed, you know, even though I'm not really doing it as a painting project right now. I kind of have the same thing with some Nurglings and like some other stuff to do too. And as far as other painting stuff, that's about it at the moment. I mean, I still have, I've been putting it off, but I've got another 10 Black Orcs to paint, but I just kind of been trying to fill out some different kinds of units before I bring my Black Orcs from 10 to 20 in my army list, which will be good. I do kind of want to have a sizable amount of them. I even have Savages still to paint. I have 20 of them, but I can go up to 40 just about. So there's that. I mentioned
Savages.
Sorry?
Said you can't ever have too many Savages.
Yeah, exactly. So this is my special thing. There was one season where I opened that bottle of champagne. Do you remember on the show? And and since this is season 8, I have, this is hard to see, but I have a bottle in a box.
Put it right in front of you. Put it right in front of you.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well,
Oh,
you're good.
Oh, he put the ring on.
He's put the ring on.
So I have this. Okay. And
You remember the episode, that one video you did where you put the ring on?
I do.
Oh,
Wait, that's weird. Yeah.
God, that was like 10 years ago, wasn't it?
It was a long time ago. It was 500 subscriber video
Yeah.
where I just disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have this thing, and this was a gift for Father's Day for probably 2 years ago, I'm thinking, and I've not opened it. This thing is actually, I wanted to see if there's a paper seal. It's not, but it's port, essentially. I like port.
Oh, port is good.
Yeah, I really enjoy port, and I don't have a bottle open right now. Like in the winters, I make whatever bottle I have disappear. I do. I think this is a tawny because I like. Yeah, this is called a rare tawny, is what it's called, and it's 20 years old. It's minimum average blended age of 20 years. Blended at the Penfolds Winery, Neruta. So this is. It was this first vintage. Penholds established 1844. Penholds cellars. I don't know enough about them. Where this is from. It sounds like it's Australia actually, but no. Maybe it is.
I don't think I've ever had port.
See, I really like it.
Oh, I like, because I had some that was aged in whiskey barrels.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to have to do something I've never done before, and that is I'm going to have to cut this with a hobby knife rather than like a wine. This has to be open like a wine bottle almost, and so I better be careful with this. Anyways, I might mess with this because here we go. I'm cutting it. Hobby knife works not too bad. So what we're going to do, I thought, is maybe go over some comments because we've got a bunch of comments from people. Oh, you know what? This is corked. So this is, I guess that makes sense. It's got an actual cork. Not just one you can, not just one
get your corks
back on and off. I'm not going to do that on the show because I don't have a corkscrew here on right in front of me. So I guess I'm having that. Either that, or if you guys don't mind, I'll go grab a corkscrew later on in the show. I'll go grab
Are you going to share?
I will, of course. So let's go through the comments real quick before we go to our topics, just so we can see what everybody's been saying.
Getting
And
everybody
I'm
involved.
going to quickly go through here. Looks like this is Clyde before the show here. Was talking to X Annex about Wardheim because he lives locally and he's playing in a locally to me, and he's playing. Sounds like gaming, a league at the Century Box, which is a club close to where I live too. And we've got Very Silent Mouse that joined the house. Series 8 for any UK friends. Now, is there a Series 8 a UK show? Like, is that the name of a show? I'm not familiar with it.
I think so.
Okay. Well, looks like you've been compared to Star-Lord there, Rusty, with your initial screen background.
Space, the final frontier.
Axanix was talking about BattleTech, and he said, I ended up with financial difficulties, so when my Mercenaries Kickstarter arrived last month, I quickly sold it off. I sold below MSRP and still made a profit, so that was crazy, but nice.
Well, yeah. Anytime you got to do a situation like that and you can pull a profit off something.
Yeah.
Soren has claimed another when Tim was disappearing into the mountains there.
Back in
when we talk about musty drinks, Annex is his paint water.
Been there.
Never done that.
He's got some snotlings on the painting table as well. And then he says, I've got some rum aged in cognac in it. It's amazing. That does sound good. I don't know that I've ever had that before.
Ooh. I tell you what, one of the worst, well, I wouldn't say it was the worst hangover I ever had, but I got blasted on some cognac when I was in Germany. Oh my goodness. The very first time I ever had like memory loss from what happened
from drinking
cognac.
I'm like, that was the first time? No, just kidding.
Very first time I ever had to. I woke up and what the heck? Guys were explaining what happened and what we were doing. I'm going, oh my God, we're lucky we weren't dead.
They're like, oh my God, it's like you were epic last night. What?
Epic what?
Yeah, an epic idiot. Okay, we're talking about the middle of winter time in Germany, and we're in a little Volkswagen Beetle. And apparently, you know how they have traffic circles back then everywhere, long before they had them over here in the West. And I guess we come down off this hill into this traffic circle, and it was so slick. He tells me I'm hanging out the window as we're doing donuts in the middle of the traffic circle, out of control.
Wow.
And I don't remember any of it. I just had to take his word for it that I was an idiot.
Well, we're caught up in comments.
I've never been on that level of consumption before.
Oh, well, neither had I, but apparently
I never have.
It went down pretty good, but let's just say it was one of the only times I've ever ventured that far off the beaten path.
Off the reservation, huh?
Yeah, I was way off.
Well, our first topic is how do you sometimes, like when you place terrain, how do you at times use terrain in your various games you play? And I think that could be part of the discussion too, the context. But how do you strategically, or even just how do you like to place like that strategically, and like how you do that could be a part of the answer. But in general, if it's a strategic decision, how else you decide to place terrain. And so for those that are in the comments, if you'd like to, we will between topics, and if you'd like to talk amongst yourselves and also with us about
your thought processing
questions.
Oh yeah.
First.
Huh.
Interesting conversation there. Well, we recently just had we played what, 3 games?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was 3.
Where it's pretty common where you do that in fantasy, where you're putting piece by piece out. Now, other games, it may be that they just set it out there and you go for it, But, Or like a scenario-driven kind of thing.
Right.
Thing. But
that's where the players mutually set up the table.
Yeah.
And, and it's kind of like done in a very fair way that during the game, as part of the setup.
Right.
Not all games are like that.
No.
Yeah.
Some games are like, oh God, what is it? Where you can actually gain a benefit by having a certain order in which you get to select the terrain or put the terrain out and stuff like that. Like Song of Ice and Fire was that way, where you get, when you're picking terrain, there were certain pieces of terrain that had actual effects in the game.
Yeah.
If you were within, especially I think it was you were within 6 inches of it, then it had an effect on you, and it was dependent upon some other factor, whether you won or lost combat, whether you have to take a particular kind of test or not, and those sorts of things. Yeah.
So, Rusty, do you? I'm sorry. I know.
Oh, go ahead.
We're fluid. I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk a bit about like how you like to use terrain. When you're playing games in general, like, is there any?
Well, it depends on the army I'm playing. If the thought process I had, like that one game where we had the Bretonians on the table, where I want the thought process that goes through my head is like, I don't want too many things to hamper the ability to get a good, decent charge in. I don't want the enemy to be able to hide from me. It's like I want to be able to just go across and hammer away, and I want my fire support systems to be able to assist in that endeavor. So if you have this, you're thinking about in the terms of, like, say, a gun line, if you're facing off against a player that has a gun line, I might consider doing my best to hamper that as much as possible to prevent them from being able to just set up there in the backfield and I'm going to put stuff blocking line of sight type of thing. Force them to come across and maneuver, and that's what I'm thinking at the time. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So that's one of the things I'd be thinking about. What say you,
Tim? How would you? Do you want to go next?
Oh God, I don't know if you want me to get started. I love it.
All right, hit the stopwatch.
Out. I'm about to go on a rant. No, I love this part of it because one of the things, like when you're doing asymmetrical games, especially, and it doesn't matter whether it's kind of fantasy or historical or something. Like let's just take the idea of an ambush that can occur in both fantasy type battles and historical stuff. It's ubiquitous in gaming, the ambush.
Yeah.
And and that's where, as the person doing the ambush, you have the pick of the terrain. Basically, you're picking your time and your place. I always thought that was important, especially like if you're really taking a fairly small, fast, hard-hitting force to do a particular amount of damage, then try to get out without getting wiped out, or being able to do it without being caught before you get it done.
Yeah.
All those sorts of things play into it. And now I always had a problem with the way that like GW's, some of their scenarios were, because they were not particularly always well thought out. They had great ideas, but the way the armies played and the way they played out, sometimes the ambusher would have just so much stuff on the table, even if they were outnumbered, the points totals were just pretty wonky, and you could get a lot of damage in on people before they could even get. And if you had stuff like, it was fear, terror, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You could run people off the table pretty quick.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. Now in historical, I love doing that where, I like if my buddy and I who've been playing, we had a Successor Kingdoms versus the Romans game going on. And if we were to do like an ambush, then I would allow him to set up his ambush. It couldn't be to the point where it wouldn't make any sense, but it has to be something that would gives him the terrain advantage, because that's the whole idea of launching an ambush, is that you're using the terrain to your advantage and your ability to hit and to run and do damage and not get destroyed in the process. And we always make it to where they don't have to actually win the battle like by victory points. They just have to achieve a certain level of damage or take out a certain part of whatever force, like the baggage train, the artillery train. You can do that like in Napoleonics. You can do that everywhere. It just throughout history and even fantasy and stuff, that sort of thing always is a fun way to play those asymmetrical games that really rely on table setup and positioning and those sorts of things.
And to actually, so part of what you're saying is that you like using terrain to facilitate scenarios.
Well, yeah, and now I'm not done. I'm not done. Okay, now if you're going to say we're just going to play a battle, now the way we used to do it in our group with in fantasy, because we used to have guys that would they would make like killing fields and like if you didn't watch them like a hawk, they would set stuff up to where, okay, this is just ridiculous. So what I decided was, like, how we always played on like a 4x8 table. So we would cut it off into 2x4 sections, cut down the middle. So each guy had a 2x2 section, and then you rolled a dice, and you either were in the towards the middle of the table section or towards the back. So you had a 2x2 set up in like little squares, and then you kind of randomly placed that piece of terrain within those parameters. Okay. And like say you got the 4x8, you got the middle of the table, and then each section is 2x4. Well,
so kind of like a zone
table gets he has a 2x2 section. He can actually place whatever he rolls for in, and then we randomly rolled whether it was like towards the middle of the table or towards the back of the table, and he could put it anywhere within that square, that 1 foot by 2 foot square in the back or towards the front. And then you just randomly did that across the table. It gave people enough where they could move it quite a bit, but they couldn't, like, I used to play this guy who played Wood Elves, and his Wait, you better know that you're not going to get any movement done because the whole table was nothing but woods.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That thing where they could move through the woods and they could do. They took less penalty for shooting into the woods or out of the woods or something, and it was horrible. So that's why we kind of went to this more randomized way of doing it. Now, if you had something that like the Wood Elves that kind of really needed that, you would always let them do their thing. Remember, what was it that they always got the police of wood?
Yeah, there is. They get a wood that they can place, and even like the tree men, I think they have this tree singing or something where they get there's a spell too that works with it as well.
Yeah.
That was from 6th edition when I played, but I think they still have that stuff.
Yeah,
but I haven't played them actually in Old World yet.
I love the whole idea of terrain on the table and having it be not just be like eye candy, but it actually
has a
purpose on the table. It's even if it's just like part of the storyline, it doesn't have to like be that disruptive in movement and that kind of thing. It has to be part of the story.
Yeah.
And I like that. I love the idea of terrain on the table and it being a part of the game itself. Of course, and again, like with everything, you can go a little too far with that, and it can really gum up the game if you do too much of that. You know, this woods does this thing, this field. You know, if you go in there, it does. Didn't they do that in fantasy at one point in time where they had all like the strange woods and?
Well, yeah, like they're well, in 40K for sure would have that, right? Like you have like your alien swamp and things that like can hurt you and stuff. At least when I played in 6th and 7th edition, they had that. But yeah, like there are different kinds
of fantasy. They had something like that where
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
that's I always like where you're playing games where you're having at least a good amount of terrain, but leaving some avenues of approach and
lane. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're not all battles are always going to be fought on a plain flat field with nothing in it. You know,
right?
Even though there was lots of battles, that is one hill in this entire area. We're going to park our flag on the top and make them come to us. But
right. Well, shall I?
Yeah, go ahead. Interdict.
What? So, like talking about the competitive environment for games that I play that feel more competitive, like a game. You know, like I use that term kind of lightly, but like where I feel like I'm playing a game against the opponent, and it's like a slightly competitive style game. I will oftentimes, like I think most people here, you know, in the chat, you know, use terrain to try to better the particular units that I have and to try to minimize the units of the opponents. And so if I've got really close combat oriented, I might have like woods where they can kind of try to evade fire and like, you know, not be seen and things like that. You know, and then, you know, like with just as an example, like with my bolt thrower, I chose to put a hill on the table in the back so I could actually, with the Warhammer Fantasy rules, you know, basically shoot anything on the table within its 48 inches. You know, just to so that's a piece of terrain, you know, for that advantage. And so I think we do that stuff for sure. Since I'm kind of thinking about playing Sharps Practice again, and I'm thinking of Musket and Tomahawks too, a lot of times. With my particular historical gaming, and I probably approach this from listening to you, Tim, a little differently when it comes to historical gaming. Well, maybe not. I actually, when I set up my French Indian War tables, I set them up even when I'm playing friends as opponents, completely to try to epitomize the genre. And so, you know, I do whatever I can to make it look like America at that time, like with the stuff that I have.
Oh well, yeah.
and I know everybody like wants to do that. I mean, I know, but I don't, compared to the other games that I play, I don't play terrain in sort of like a competitive way at all when I play those games. And granted, like, and I'm not playing those games competitively. Like, I'm not going down to a shop and meeting someone that has like a British army and I have a French, and we're just going to play and like try to, see who wins. Like, I don't set up tables that way. On the other hand, Saga, which is much more game-like for me, like it's very much like even the way you set out terrain is very much like Warhammer Fantasy. Like you go and place one, I go and place one. That one, I do kind of operate a bit more like I play Warhammer Fantasy, where I try to use them to my advantage and this and that. So that's a real key difference for me, in the way I play. Like, one, I'm almost trying to set up a simulation on one, and then the other, I'm playing a game. It's kind of a different, even though it's a game. The simulation, I still do it that way. And then, but to make things a little bit also interesting with historical, when I play bolt action, it's a little bit of both. More so setting it up like the French Indian War, where I wanted to fit the theme, but I don't have as good of a table, in my opinion, for World War II as I do to my liking of French Indian War. I have a lot more stuff for French Indian War, but I like games where, like bolt action, where there are rules for like going into buildings, not just having the building as a piece of terrain and like an obstacle, but like something that you actually man it. And there's rules. And also, Musk and Tomahawk says this too. There are rules like, for actually operating, getting into the building, fighting at the window and at the door. Like, once you're both in, like what that means and like all that stuff. I think is very cool when they operate. And then sometimes they'll do that with woods, and this is kind of getting a little bit to what you were saying, Tim, that there's types of woods or swamps or jungles with like poisonous snakes and stuff. And there's rules like, and stuff like that. And I think that's cool too, like where you actually have rules for the terrain to make it more interactive and an actual more important component to the game.
Oh yeah, especially like in fantasy stuff, it makes so much sense to have that. But I think it's one of those things where you got to be careful, because you can put way too much of that on the table, and it just sways the game so much, or it bogs it down, and that's the worst thing. For those extra rules to bog it down. It's okay. When I did stuff like that, I always used to love to randomize that piece, or like stick a card, and you don't know it's the live piece of terrain until you actually get there, and it may not be, or it could be.
That's cool.
Nobody knows exactly whether it's a live active piece or not until something actually triggers it to happen. That's all. But then again, you don't want your whole table full of that stuff, because then it becomes the game rather than the actual strategies and tactics of the game. It's almost like terrain avoidance rather than it's just there and it reacts to your presence somehow.
You're playing Pitfall.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's funny that you say that, because one of the things that I really like 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy, but one of the things that I don't like about it is that the movement penalties in terrain are so much stricter.
They're pretty severe.
Yeah, than in Old World. Like, literally, I was playing a game where it said to put like a homestead, like kind of little city in the middle of the table for the 6th edition, which had like a big fence around it, like a wall.
Right.
The way that the houses ended up on there, and with the way that was in a Warhammer Fantasy battle game, the only way I could actually get to my opponent was to go across like multiple walls. Each one of those walls reduced my movement to like 2 inches. And I basically just sat there, and then like my opponent's like, well, I'm not coming after you. It's going to be a long day before, you know what I mean? If you're just going to sit there. And I was like, well, if I go on those walls, I'm there for the rest of the game, like all 6 turns. I can't get across them, And so then I ask myself and I say, like, well, that kind of stinks. Like if you have like a game where the terrain just makes it such that
you can't play the game.
Can't really play. Like there's just a loophole there that is not good.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where if there's, like I said, if there's too much of that, then that becomes the game itself rather than the 2 people playing. It's like, well, I'm going to avoid going over the walls. So that means I got to go around to this end of the village, where the other guy says, well, if you have to take the long way around, I'm going to go this way, and
never meet.
We'll never meet. We'll never play. And there's no way of like forcing the issue.
Looks like we got, I'm just looking up from the painting, and it looks like Curtis from Forge and Brush Gaming has joined us. Hey, Curtis, good to see you. And he says, you're looking good, Rusty. Good to see you guys again. Painting away. Let's see if anybody else has joined while we were chatting. Looks like that hasn't happened. And so why don't we go to comments real quick before we go to the next topic? Actually, I shouldn't say that. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about this topic before we go to the comments or before we go to a different topic? Or
well, you brought up some interesting points of it about how the different games you're playing will determine what kind of terrain I'm throwing down too. Mm-hmm. Let's say if I'm playing bolt action, I want that. It's like you got a city fighter village or something. Yeah, it's going to be a cluttered mess, but that doesn't hinder, that kind of game.
Right. It's awesome for bolt action.
Yeah. It makes you more immersed into it. Actually, you're fighting over the village or whatever it may be.
It's a fast-paced game, and it can handle it. The rules can handle it.
Now, something like Old World, where you have all kinds of buildings and everything, where you got to fight. You can do it. You could fight through a town, but you're fighting in city streets versus, you're going to be, instead of a broad, you're going to be, when one building to the other, your unit just marching right down, you're just going to be congested up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm like guzzling this beer down because I was so like into the painting there. I'm like behind on sips.
Well, you don't want it to get warm.
No, that's true.
You don't want your Stella Artois getting warm.
I like it. Have you ever had that before, Rusty?
Yeah.
Okay. I like my beer cold. I'm American. Yeah. So American. So are Canadians. They like
American, baby.
Oh, American. The Canadians like their beer cold too. So, in my experience,
it's like you leave Canadian beer at cellar temperature is frozen, man.
That's right. Far out. So, what we got here for comments is, Clyde, I'm not sure. Let me just see where this actually came up, because this was after we did comments before, but got me a mix of different skeletons from various companies so I can have some orcs, dwarves, halflings, humans dead together for my Kings of War army.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Now, is that like a terrain thing? Like just because it's Kings of War, like is that like a terrain part of the discussion, or was that just like I'm not sure if that was referencing something else, but that sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that's not done enough.
Fact, like, wasn't there forces like that when Warhammer Fantasy first started off? Like the undead, they had like undead beastmen, undead, everything.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So your army looked like that sort of shambling. It wasn't just all skelly. What was that? Skelly bobs.
And it's like now it's all generic human skeletons. Yeah, I guess they could be skeleton elves, but
right. Well, you think about it, zombies too, right? Yeah. Like in ghouls, like they're all basically looking like humans,
right? And I think it would be awesome to see like undead dwarves and undead halflings and undead elves and stuff, just especially like, like the zombie part would just be awesome, I would think. Like maybe like zombie chaos warriors or something, like, yeah.
I have seen some people do zombie dwarves and orcs and stuff. Like, and I'm wondering if that was like a zombicide game or if it was something else, but I've seen them do it. That's Curtis saying hello. And then we've got Axanix. I aim to set up the battlefield appropriate to the game I am playing. Block lines of sight for shooty games, add levels for games like Mordheim. So like, yeah, like that's true. Like we didn't talk about that, but like going up, like, so like having games that are, because Mordheim being a city kind of game, a big part of it is actually going up.
Yeah.
Different levels and buildings. And he says, I try to make it a challenge without making it unwieldy. That's a good strategy, I think.
Exactly.
There are some games like I like Warhammer Fantasy the way it is where like it's not too terrain heavy because it's mass battle. It's meant to simulate mass battle.
Right.
Yeah.
Like people argue, what you got there, Rusty? You see a wave in your hand. And we click that off. There you go. Oh yeah, your progress there. Cool.
Yeah. Progress.
Nice.
Then I got the jumpers got there.
Those are your progressives.
Yeah, my progression.
So, here we go. The strategic war machine, Artie Hill. War Machine, Artie Hill. So I never played War Machine, but I heard a lot about it.
Well, I think he's talking like if you're playing like Old World, you have a hill or two where you have your war machines parked on it, so they got line of sight over everything.
Right.
Yep.
So there's nothing to block the line of sight, so you can just drop rocks on people's heads from anywhere in the board.
But there's also
your own units. Yep.
Yep.
We didn't mention how part of the usage of terrain in some games, Old Hammer being or the Old World being one of them, is you can steal the side of the table that your opponent's been favoring with their terrain. And so like you can kind of do a steal or a bamboozle and I've done that, where they just sort of put impassable terrain in hills like where the artillery are. So you can't get them. But then I just say, well, I'm taking your side. And so, and that's part of it, right? Like that's part of,
when that's part of the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why if you're setting up a table, it wouldn't hurt to put stuff on both sides just to hedge your bets.
Mm-hmm. So, narrow streets keep the huge rabble formations out of town and in the country where they belong.
Yeah.
Hicks out of town.
Wow. That was just dropping before we brought up the topic. I think that's him just making a comment. Yeah, that was like in between that first comment about the skeletons. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, I think we're kind of ahead of schedule, to be honest, because our last topic is sort of, I'm sure we can find more things to talk about, but our last topic is a little more quicker, I think, and because it's a hobbying topic. It's sort of, but the question is, we've talked in the past about painting plateaus. We've talked about this concept of adding something new to the way you do things, because like, none of us have to do that. Some of us are perfectly happy with the way we've been painting for years, and there's no pressure to do anything different when you find something that works. And that could be a whole nother topic, finding what works and sticking with it. But sometimes, like I like to just at times, I do like to always try something new for the fun of it, recognizing it may cause me to paint worse today than I did yesterday when I'm trying to learn something new with the goal of hopefully painting better overall after that, incorporating it in. And, I just thought is there anything recent that anybody's been doing that they consider to be a little different? Maybe they've done it once before to some capacity, but like once, and now they're just trying to do it more, or anything like that. That they, and it doesn't have to be painting. It could be modeling too, like anything.
Well, I've stopped using flock.
Get the flock out of here.
Yeah, I've stopped using flock on my individual model bases and their movement bases.
Okay.
Basically because I got sick of the mess. Now, if I did some for my Dark Age, which is really sad because I really like the way they came out. I had a lot of different mixtures in there, had tufts on them, and had what is it, dried oregano in there. Really gave it a leafy, bushy look around the base and everything.
Makes the table
The
smell
only
nice.
problem is every time you pick those things up to move it, that stuff just crumbles every. And
you're not just talking about terrain. You're talking about like your bases on your guys.
Just on the guys. Now, if I'm doing a terrain piece, I definitely use flock on terrain. And,
I also find it gets all over the place.
Yeah,
but
I do too, but you don't handle it as much.
Yeah, you have to do upkeep on your terrain, I think.
But to do it on actual miniatures, I just don't do that anymore. And I watched Martin from Seventh Son one time. I like early this year. I really noticed it because I know I've seen him do it for a while. I've seen some of his older, but where he just does like the Vallejo. I use it a lot. It's their ground effects, dirt, mud, and earth tones. And then
they have something called sandy paste, which is kind of like that. It comes in these kinds of jars.
Right.
But
yeah. And they have colored ones where they darker mud and stuff. And what he did was he would do that on the base and then put tufts and maybe clump them together and stuff. And it's so much cleaner of a look. Now, it does not have that like walking across a field look. But I think I would be happier with less mess than with that little extra bit of look to it. Now, I would imagine I could sprinkle a little clumpage of green on there, but why? I'm really into this thing, but it's terrible. Here's a question for you, just out of the blue along those topics. Now that I've started doing this with existing armies, units that I'm adding to existing armies, does that throw off the entire look of the army? Is that something that's important to you? Is that homogeneity of the bases? Everything's got a look, and all of it has to have a particular look. Because if that would be the case, I'd have to go through an awful lot of bases, scraping an awful lot of flock off.
Yeah,
I have done that. Gone through with a lot of my miniatures over the years. The stuff I'd done in the 90s.
Yeah.
How I put the flock on was just the stuff came off in droves.
Yeah.
Versus what I do now is like the amount of glue I put on and everything. It's like that stuff doesn't come off. So I've gone back and scraped stuff off and redone the bases so it looks like so it matches up with my newest armies. But
I find that all that matters for me is the way my own stuff looks. I don't really care what other people do as long as the base, like if the base looks good, whether it has flock on it or doesn't have flock on it, that looks good to me. You know what I mean? But like if they do an army on parade and show all their stuff on the table and like some of it's different than the other, like I'm not going to be bothered at all by it. So when you say, is that important to you? How you did that would not be important to me as long as like it looked good either way and you were happy with it, then it would be fine. For me, I absolutely know what you're talking about, and I try to do like certain armies certain ways, and so for my Beastmen, I was doing all Goblin Green Old Sand, with the highlight of the yellow, like old style GW. But then for my Orcs, I wanted to kind of change it up a bit, and I'm doing like Earth for the top of the base with sand, but I'm doing like Goblin Green around the edges, and I'm just like making the whole army pretty much like that. For my Chaos that I'm going to be doing Daemons, I'm looking to kind of revert back. And when I say back, I don't mean like old school back, but like to what I used to do. Because I saw somebody do a really cool army with Plague Bearers, and it's got like, it was very like built up with putty and like mushrooms and like wet looking and just very like Nurgle-y looking. And I was like, you know what? I want to do that too. Like I want to actually dress up my bases a bit, like, because I've been doing the old school style for my two current armies that I'm doing, but I kind of want to do that look, I really like that. And as long as I'm consistent with it and I'm not like mixing in like an old school Goblin Green, like in the middle of all these other ones that are done way beyond that, then I'm fine with it. Like I just kind of, I do kind of like myself army consistency, but I don't really fuss too much about what my friends do, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it's like an individual taste thing. It's not
Yeah.
like, you're not going to hold it against somebody because they do something that's a little bit, their bases don't all match.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I have friends that I play that don't paint, like they're miniatures actually. Like I have friends that play basically, gray or prime black. But yeah. Yeah. And so that was an interesting one. So Rusty, what about you? The original question, since we seem like we veered a bit, was: is there something new? It wasn't about just bases, but that was Tim's thing, like his answer to it. But if there was something, and part of this is refreshing my own memory here, is there something in your hobby modeling or whatever that you do that you're starting to incorporate that's new for you, like that's an added benefit?
Well, it's not really new, but I've gone back to it. Is painting with washes again. Oh, yeah. And I did that test with the
Ragnarok.
Yeah, the Ragnarok. And I was like, when I started doing my all my undead stuff with the for the Vampire Counts army, a lot of that stuff was all washes. Because I just didn't feel like being really ambitious. That's why I got through so quickly. It was that, I'm brushing using a brush, but it's just a wash. I just started off with a base and went from that way to. I just wanted to do something fast and speed it up. Because I was just looking at it's like I got so many armies here. I want to get done and be able to put on the table if I want to. And it's like, what's the fastest way of doing it? And it was, there's this old technique I tried testing with, and it works. And everybody's talking about using contrast paints, and I was like, okay, I'm maybe not use contrast paints per se, but I'm just going to use washes.
Your screen froze a little while ago, but I can hear you fine.
Me?
Yeah. You're just kind of froze, but that's Mr. Freeze for you.
Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was just sitting there talking like this all the time, like that.
That's right. You can actually talk without moving your lips, right?
Yes, I can. I can talk all I want to all the time. So yeah. I've been messing with you for all these years. I wasn't actually frozen. I was messing with your head. But yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. Trying to incorporate more into my paintings is that I would just want to do things a little faster now.
Yeah.
And it does go pretty quickly when you're not fussing over trying to make everything look so spectacular. And it's for me only, so I don't need to paint every miniature to level 5 out of 10. It's like,
yeah. Cool. That's cool. I have mine involves an ink too, to some degree, but it's nothing spectacular, and it's not oh, you're moving again, Rusty. Nothing spectacular, nothing huge. But when I was doing some Orcs and Goblins, I started mixing my inks a bit, so like I could use a regular wash, like strong tone kind of wash, or like soft tone, in more accurately here, like an army painter soft tone that really is the browns, right? But I actually started putting some green ink in it, and so actually, if I'm when I'm on like the Orc or the Goblin skin, I'm adding some green filter a little bit with the brown and experimenting with mixing washes, depending on what the like the object is. Maybe just a plain brown isn't what I want. Maybe a little red, if it's like and actually that's a good point. When I did that Red Wyvern, and I did some, so I did do it more than once recently. When I did that, took some of the brown washes, and I actually put some red ink in it, and not to overpower it, because I've been burned by that. Like you can, old inks, like you can actually just basically cover your model with it, and it'll just
stay atrocious.
But some of them. But I've been doing that just to like put a little in, like just a little, so it's not just brown, but it's got a little bit of a hue. And so it's not that I've never probably done it before, but it's not done close together, and have been thinking about like doing, more often. And yeah, it's kind of neat. In the same way that I sometimes like, to mix my own paint colors. It's kind of gives you that feeling like you can kind of create a unique effect. And so, yeah. So that's my answer for that one.
So that's what you did with the Wyvern?
I did, yeah. I used many different reds for paint, but then I also put in a little bit of red with my brown wash. And I've also done it with some of my works too, with green.
One thing I like doing, like for my rust effect stuff, is I take Nuln Oil and mix in a orange paint. And it makes a really nice rust effect.
Wow, that's cool.
So if you ever get something that's like you're going to have Nurgle warriors or your plague bearers, when you got their swords, you want rusted swords, try it.
Yeah.
So I got a pot that's dedicated to just making a mix of wash.
Yep. Yeah, so why don't we take a look at what other people have been talking about with what they're doing new. But to start out, Clyde starts with something first unrelated. Excuse me. A cough and a laugh at the same time doesn't sound good. He says, for humor's sake, I picked halflings to be my skeleton spearmen. And I think that was a discussion with the first comment before the other comments.
I've seen a lot of that where like 15 mil models will have multiple different kinds of undead from different races in 15 mil. But I haven't seen anybody doing it lately with like 28s. Like if he does, where he's getting them from, I'd like to know.
Well, he'll probably let us know that if he hasn't already below. We'll see. Axanax says, I have been big into Vallejo earth texture. And that's kind of what Tim was talking about when we were talking about the Vallejo textures. And he says tufts and rocks too these days.
Now, one thing, it's like depending on my armies, where I'm thinking about getting back in. We're talking about getting back into 30K because my son's thinking about playing.
Yeah.
And now, imagine this: Games Workshop is now releasing all the stuff that was in Forge World into plastics. It's like all my Mechanicum army that's from Forge World is now being released in plastic stuff. So it's like they have some miniatures and like, hey, you can for $150 you can get a nice box set that has a lot of the models I don't have yet. And I was like,
That's awesome.
But the thing I always do with the Mechanicum army to make them look like, you know, they have this Martian iron burst stuff that crackles.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll put that on there and it gives that nice cracked mud earth look. And when the thing is that people don't realize is you got to put a different color. Like if this is a rust brown, you got to put a darker brown or something underneath it.
So you're using the Hobby Crackle or are you using the GW product?
The GW product.
Okay, because there's a I could show it to you if you want, but there's a cheaper product you can get at Michael's. It's a Crackle product for paints. You can basically do the same thing. It's just much cheaper. You get a much bigger tub, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, and the GW really nice. Stuff it kind of works right out of the bottle. But yeah,
most people don't realize they'll put that on their model, but you have to seal it in. And I make a nice mixture of just white glue with water, so it's liquidy, and you brush that on there really thick, and then let it dry, and then put another coat on there, and it seals it in. But otherwise, it just flakes off. Kind of like putting oregano on your model.
Yeah.
So.
And it makes it smell. I don't know if it came through, but it makes it smell nicer too.
Yeah, it does. It smells like pizza.
That's right. So then Curtis says, I just use spackle with paint, partially flock it once dry. I just use spackle with paint, partially flock it once dry. Yeah, that's cool.
You buy it in the multi-purpose, all-purpose sheetrock mud.
Yeah.
Put that on your base, and like that really fine sand, you put that just layered over top, kind of push it in there, and it makes a really nice crack or effect on a model too.
So Clyde says, I find my trees make more mess than the block terrain pieces. Still, I'd rather make the mess. White glue and water spray the heck out of it to try to keep things where it's supposed to be. I know that's the trouble. Even trying to use hairspray and then that stuff and then just do everything. But I still find eventually it doesn't take long. Even with everything you do, it. So as somebody that plays the French Indian War stuff, I have tree canopies that are 3 feet wide.
And they just fall apart.
And like it's a constant thing where they, like it never stays on completely. But it is what it is. But it's just, I had friends when we played Bolt Action that would just talk about like how much flock, like he would have just bins of flock on the bottom with the terrain in it. You know what I mean? Like it's just because there's just so much, but it does make it look good, but, Curtis says, new for me is starting to take advantage of speed paints for my own stuff. Comes in handy for the rank and file models.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually also new for me. Last Christmas, I did my first project with speed paints. And then I did 2 things close together, and I really liked the way they came out. I did a Chaos Warriors regiment and some Chaos Spawn with speed paints, and I'm using the Army Painter ones. It's the ones I kind of just decided to go with. But I think that they have a place, and I can, even for some people, the way they use them in combined with traditional paints and just kind of use them for certain things, or you're doing the whole thing, like they can still look really good.
Yeah, I'm thinking of trying to figure out how to, because I got those Perry miniatures, the Queen's Rangers for AWI, and I'm thinking of trying to do speed painting on those and see how that comes out.
Sure, absolutely.
Because if it when I was doing these vampire count models, the Vargoths and stuff like that, it weren't really fast. And I'm thinking it might be a quick way to paint those guys up and get them ready for battle.
Because you have a need for speed.
Yeah.
No, it's a good thing. I agree. Why not? So Alex says, my Night Goblin robes are a slap chop, followed by a layer of Drakenhof Nightshade with Nuln Oil over the top. That sounds like an interesting combination. Do you guys know what the slap chop is? That's kind of where they you take like a black model and then like you kind of like the way I understand it. That's what I did actually for my Chaos Spawn. Is you then dry brush them with grays and whites to so you're creating like basically a gradient, and that does the work for you. And then you put the speed paint on top, and
that's just a new name for. They just added a new name for an old technique. So
get off my lawn.
It's like I reinvented the wheel.
Get off my lawn, you Sigmarite, you. And so, but yes, no, I think it's actually a good technique. Curtis says, "Oh, something else new for me is 3D printing. Changes everything for me. That's a big one." And that would include Rusty and myself. Tim, you're not doing 3D printing at this time, right?
Not at this time, no.
Yeah. We're also completely incorporated that, and it does actually open up worlds of opportunity.
I'm afraid of that opportunity is what I.
Well, the wonderful thing about it is that you can look at something and go, I can spend $200 to buy these models from Games Workshop, or I can 3D print them for about $10.
Yeah.
Well, and then like you can use it for terrain, and you can use it for movement trays, like just gaming aids. Like you can use it for just so much.
All that extra stuff.
Did I ever show the 3D printed building I did on the channel?
The one with the tank?
No, it's the
ruin with the tank, not that one.
Not with a tank, but it can be used for fantasy.
I'm not sure.
Or it can be used on the Eastern Front. Let's see. I'll be right back.
Oh, I think you did. I think you did because you mentioned it at that time.
Now,
Tim, you were saying something. You got cut off.
Yeah, I forgot.
Okay. It's okay.
I'm old. I forgot already.
Okay. Here you go. Let's see. You want to raise. I know what you did there, Rusty. You want to raise the building. You're waiting to show the building.
See if you guys were talking or not.
Nope.
But yeah, this is a 3D printed building. They had a Kickstarter where I think I spent $20 for the Kickstarter, and I got like 10 of these type of buildings like this that I can just 3D print off.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is it's got details inside.
Right.
So, you could use it for role-playing games. Let's say if you wanted to use it in any type of miniature game, bolt action, you name it.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
It's kind of nice thing is that it cost me maybe $3 in resin to print this.
Right.
And you just think of how much it would cost you to buy a model like this. And do it, you paint it up yourself. But
look who slipped into the chat, the Jank Master with the Master Jank. Is that also a 3D printed mustache? Well, if you consider me now a 3D printer, and I made this mustache, then it is a 3D printed mustache, isn't it? I think so, by that logic.
Right.
I am a 3D printer. So,
except you're printing that mustache every day.
I do a lot of printing. Curtis says, I got some really good results with the speed paints. Fun to use too. Yeah. Sounds like the speed paint ones are the army painter. Unless you're just using it, some people use it as a generic term, speed paints. But I'm trying to think. Contrast paints, the brand is GW. Speed paints, I think, is Army Painter. That's what I use. I'm not sure if you're just using it as a generic term, but I do think they're all kind of good from what I've seen. So, and Jake Masters says, nice. So on that note, we're through the comments. We have to find more stuff to talk about because we still have at least another half hour of the show.
Well, we didn't have Dan here to spread us out for another half an hour on each topic.
That's true. What I'm going to do real quick, because you guys said it would be okay, is I'm going to just stop being host for just about
and go get your corkscrew.
I'm going to get the corkscrew so I can open up my brand new special bottle for the 8th season opening of port. And so I'll be right back.
Oh, gosh. It's up to us, Rusty.
Oh, crud.
I don't perform well.
He uses Army Painter. Okay. He who uses the Army Painter controls the galaxy.
I've got some Army Painter stuff. I haven't broke it out and used it yet. I should. I mean, I got so many projects stacking up. Should use one of them with those speed paints.
Yeah, that's I think our local one shop is carrying Army Painter now. So, oh crud, this is not working out good.
Uh-oh. Well, I can't see. I got to get my goggles out.
You know, I totally forgot that, of course, I have one of these from the bar, right? You know, of course, I have one of them.
Yeah. There you go.
Got it right behind me there. Yeah. So what are you guys, we're just going to wing it now? Or did we come up with something else?
Well, we already talked one complete subject while you were gone, and you just weren't here for it.
A complete subject.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was sterling stuff. I mean, I'm telling you.
Oh, I can hear that open.
Oh, no.
I always do find, since we were talking about ports earlier, some of them have a bit more of a reddish hue and some of them have a bit more of a browner hue. What I'd noticed, but let's see on this one.
So are you going to start singing Looking Glass? Brandy?
This is not Brandy, though.
But it's in every port.
Oh, wait, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah. You're one step ahead of me.
Oh, my God. You're going to have to explain that one to people.
I think a lot of the people on this show probably know it. We have a lot of seasoned individuals.
We have a lot of just old people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I guess
some of us are old as dirt.
I'll use my phone behind this, and you can tell me if you can see it. But I actually definitely feel this one's a bit of a red one. Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's see that there. When you get the light. Oh yeah.
He's got grape juice. That's what that is.
But you know, without the light, it looks very brown. Brothers, you guys just joining. I closed. We all brought a musty drink, and I opened a bottle of champagne at the end of the season. This one's about the same. This might even be more expensive than a champagne bottle, actually. This was a gift from my wife and kids a couple of years ago for Father's Day. A really rare 20-aged port. I've never had a port this nice, like from the purposes of a purchase. Yeah, I think it's really good. It's really nice.
Now,
it goes down so easy.
Oh yeah, yeah. You better watch it. You might start forgetting things.
I was chatting with Jagmaster actually, coincidentally recently, and we were talking about something, and the subject came up of the drinking the musty drinks, and I had said, you know, there's probably been a couple of shows that I should have been cut off. I mean, there's been a couple, I must admit, that I've had too much fun. Considering I'm hosting the show on some occasions, like not everyone, but like there have been some where I've been hosting and I probably should have been cut off.
No.
What'd you say?
Tim, you've been there for some of them. You've been there for some of them. they're not all long ago. So,
right. On a side topic here, as we all sit around and we paint, do you guys listen to videos while you paint, or do you listen to music?
I listen to videos.
I've done both, and I tend to listen to videos that have something to do with the topic I'm painting.
Yeah, motivation.
For some, just it kind of motivates me. It's like when I'm doing a historical stuff. I don't know you. Yeah, I know you guys probably watch the Kings and Generals channel.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
English Civil War.
Oh, I joined their Patreon thing, and I get those extra videos and stuff. I can watch that stuff while I get to watching that stuff. I'll be down here for hours painting, and it just goes by so quick. And I get a lot of stuff done when I got that video playing, especially when it has something to do with what I'm painting. It just gets those juices flowing.
Like right now, I'm kind of like they started getting into American War of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing that every once in a while. But the thing is that they only do a video every once in a while. That they kind of jump around with era they're doing.
Yes,
their series. But
now, if you're a member, you can go to their playlist stuff, and you can listen to all the videos that they did on a particular topic.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I really was getting into their Pacific War one.
Yeah.
It was really well done.
Yeah,
so
I like
if somebody
that.
was a bolt action player that did the Pacific, that would be the thing to watch.
Well, just quick, just because this came up as we were just starting the topic. Xanax says, how come Rusty did not rant about how speed paint contrast is just a new term for heavy body wash?
Heavy inking?
Yeah. I would like to say that I'm painting like war game stuff, that all I listen to, or like streaming wise, because I always typically listen to YouTube while I'm painting. And I'd like to say that it's always wargaming stuff, but oftentimes it's not. Like, just to be honest, like a lot of times I'm listening to maybe a discussion about a subject. There's a guy that travels the world that goes from cities all over the world because he can speak so many different languages. And I'm just like listening to his interactions with people, like when he goes into different places and all different places all over the world and stuff. And I oftentimes just listen to whatever I don't feel like I absolutely have to watch or I'm missing out on it. Because unfortunately with bat reps, I like them so much that I save them for when I'm having coffee and I'm doing something where I can just sit and watch them. And that's why I like 30-minute bat reps and not really long ones, because I don't want to spend 3 hours watching one. I don't have the time to do that. But I like a half-hour one because I can actually usually carve out a half hour where I can just dedicate just to watch this one battle. And I like that. But it's not while I'm painting, because I want to see it.
Yeah, you want to see the action that's going on.
Sometimes I will stream music from YouTube and just put on an album that I don't own, but I'm thinking about buying. And before I buy it, I'll just kind of like be listening to that while I'm painting.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Or checking out an album. Now, lately I've been getting into it's like current events channels.
Yep.
That especially that are related to like the Ukrainian war.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing what's
I
going
listen
on.
to that stuff too. Like I listen to current event, special interest kind of stuff, like, just this particular thing, like the war or this or that or whatever. And I can listen and not feel like I need to watch the person talking.
Yeah. There's speaking of, like, there's Kings and Generals. The Cold War. You ever watch the Cold War?
Yep.
Yeah, I like to listen to his channel too. He's a Canadian, but
You won't hold it against him.
yeah.
He's a Canadian, but still good.
Yeah, I think he's got a fairly good team of historians with him that look at providing history and from what's actually happened,
Mm-hmm.
without trying to have a bias in it, which is I found happens too many times. But
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know the facts of the matter. Let me decide if it was wrong.
I will choose my own adventure.
Yeah. So that's what it's like trying to figure things out. It's like there's the one channel I've been, what the heck is the name of that channel? It's not the Musty Wargamers channel.
I know that.
Yeah.
Right. Who would listen to them guys?
Yeah. They spend a lot of time. It's mostly dedicated to world politics, military aspect of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of biased against what the heck you call those guys? The Russians / communists. What do you call them?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's like I listen to those their channel, and they come from it from a more of the Western side of things, but it does give some good information. Occasionally they go, "Oh, yeah, you're right. That wouldn't be a very good thing to do." But what the heck is the name of that? Well, there's another guy. He used to be. He's Warfronts is the name of his channel. He changed his name of his channel. It used to be War Graphics, but it's now Warfront. He's a good channel too. I like listening to. And he gets into the politics of what's going on in the world from the perspective that this is not good. We shouldn't be doing this for everybody involved. Let's see, another channel is. You ever watched Tick? T-I-K?
I don't think so.
He does. He does a really good channel. I really got into him when he would do the battles in North Africa in World War II. He would do practically his videos would be hour by hour what was going on.
Oh.
It's like labor intensive, and he said eventually he got so burned out. He's like, "Yeah, I got to take a break from doing this because it's so labor intensive."
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. But his channel's T-I-K, Tick.
Well, there's a lot of. I like to watch a lot of stuff that's just totally random.
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things about YouTube. Is just there's just so many things. Like, I'm not really primarily into video games, but I do occasionally dabble in like one or something like that. And sometimes I'll just watch somebody just talk about the pros and cons of something before I buy it. You know what I mean? Or something like that. Even see like where, there's that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't even venture to guess all the stuff that I watch. I watch a lot of motorcycle stuff. And so I'm surprised I didn't actually, I listen to a lot of reviews on motorcycles and motorcycle equipment and like a lot of motorcycle stuff. And
Same
so that is like equal Well, no, there are times when it was more than wargaming when I was kind of really getting into it, but it's probably less than wargaming. To be fair, I'm not saying that just because of my audience here, but I do still watch a lot of that.
Yeah, it's like, especially if you're looking at reviews of bikes, you're like, oh, okay, was this something I want to get into, or this is the style of bike I want? It's like, yeah, I spent a lot of time watching certain channels, and once you got invested in the channel, you just like to, they say, yeah, I like the way this guy talks, and he's down to earth. I think I shared some of the channels with you, the ones I watch.
Yeah. We've got a couple comments here, might as well kind of, since we're talking about while we're on topic. Oh, why isn't it coming up? Something wrong with the computer? No, now it's working. That's weird. That one already came up. So Axanic says, I play The Sims 4 while I paint, except today. Today it is all you guys. Well, we appreciate that, Axanic. I am interested. How do you play Sims 4 while you paint? Is it that there's a lot of downtime, like you set things in motion and just let them do their thing? Like I don't understand.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a lot of games like that, where especially strategy games, where you kind of set things in motion, and then you hit in turn, and all things just start going on, and then all the AI players go.
Okay.
AI,
That's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that, but I guess that makes sense. Curtis says 98% of the time I'm streaming, and he's screaming when he says streaming because it's all in caps while I'm painting. But that's true because he's got like a very regular show where he paints, and like this, people attend and hang out, and he's basically streaming while he's doing it. He's actually, I'm not sure if he's the originator, but he's actually, as far as I know, one of the earliest people that I watched that did that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
He's actually, Ian. I don't know why I'm forgetting, but Ian was his partner in crime back in the day. They did like a duel show. Otherwise, I'm listening to Spotify or something. Playing Sims 4 and painting is not particularly efficient. so you can do it. It's totally possible, like we were just saying, but it's not efficient, is what I'm hearing.
Not the best usage of either time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're divided so much. Are you really giving your best effort at either one?
Well, if I'm just applying base coats and stuff, yeah, I can see that not being a big issue. But if you're trying to concentrate.
I don't know if Jangmaster's still in the house, but I could say I watch videos on how to trim my mustache, although I've not found the best video yet.
It is an art form. Because you don't want to get back when I used to have just the mustache and stuff way back in the day. It's funny how this has all come full circle again.
I actually don't know that I'm a sign of that. But
there's a lot of young guys now having that, just the mustache thing. And the thing is, you got to be careful when you're trimming, because if you trim that one side up a little too much, then you got to get that other side out. And then the next thing you know, you got that little pencil thing going. And just shave it off, start over. Shave it off, start over.
I've been real careful because that can happen very easily, and you can't go back.
Yep, you might as well just start over,
or never start at all.
Well, Rusty, I still do the shaving thing. I love my double-edged razor and all that stuff, but you're a purist. You just, the only thing you don't shave is your head with it.
At least not yet.
You're going to look like a Harkonian if you do that.
Yeah. I'll be living on a black world. But yeah, that's something I haven't done yet. Is that my hair is going away. Eventually, it will get short, and eventually it'll just like gone.
And you're going to join the club, and we're going to have to make it. We're going to have to make it. If that happens, then Dan will have to do something and make, we'll make it. We'll be the Baldies from like the Wanderers. Do you remember the Wanderers? And Tim knows because he's going to see his eyes closed. The Wanderers, right? The Baldies.
Vision I don't want to have, but okay. Thanks for putting that there, but okay.
You can't
see it now.
Speaking of movies they'll never make again, and they'll probably never show again, like on public television, that's one of them. If you've ever seen it, you'd have to look for it because they'll never show that one on TV again.
Yeah, there's a lot of appropriate movies.
Trying to think what that movie is, The Wanderers.
It's like a 1950s gang in like a mixed melting pot New York kind of movie, but it was actually kind of cool in some ways because they had like existential threat in it that was kind of cool. But it was an interesting movie back in the day. But yeah, it's special in the way that they do things that they would never do in a movie today. They could never do. But I'm not saying that they should, but it's just a movie. So
yeah.
So just because this relates to it, Jangmaster asks if Stallone's in that one, and he is not. He's not in The Wanderers. Yeah, he was in another movie that was one of his first movies before Rocky. That was a black leather jacket with the guy kind of movie. And I can yes, that's it, right. And I'm not overly familiar with it. I had seen it once, like a long time ago, but I think that's what you're thinking of, Jangmaster. So Axanax says that it scratches 2 itches, and he's referring to not the Wanderers, but because you don't want to know what those itches are. If that's the case, but it's playing Sims 4 in painting, I think is what it's referring to. That's the timing of that comment. So, he says, "Oh yeah, the youths are all sporting the stashes." So that's when you were saying it's popular again.
Oh yeah,
but is the big mustache kind of popular, or is it just
that's what they're going for?
Is that right? Okay. Well, I guess it's for the first time. Baby. I guess I'm hip. That's like
avant-garde all the way.
And that's you got to own it. Got to own it.
Chicka chicka bow wow. I watched what the heck was that movie? Just watched it the other night. Had not Matt Damon, but Mark Wahlberg was in it.
Boogie Nights.
Yes.
Boogie Nights.
Yes, Boogie Nights.
Well, with what you were singing, and then you're saying that's the only thing I can think of. That's considered a
classic.
One of its greats. Yeah, like it is. Actually, like the director of that one went on to do some great things. I can't think of his name, but he went on to do a lot of good things. Jagmaster says pre-Fonz Henry Winkler. Yes. I believe, that's
Henry Winkler was on it. And that was the thing where Henry Winkler went on to more fame before.
Did you know that Henry Winkler, as the Fonz, rode a Triumph and not a Harley on Happy Days?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that, actually. I also didn't realize
that Henry Winkler could not ride a motorcycle.
I know. I watched something on this, and they didn't want him wearing a leather jacket, and he wanted, and so did others, him to wear the leather jacket. And the only way they would allow him to wear a leather jacket is if he actually had a motorcycle on the actual screen, like in the episode. And so there were times when he would wheel the motorcycle right into Happy Days, like the diner, but for that very reason, he would wheel it like right in. But then it became so popular, the leather jacket, and so associated that then they just said, forget it, like just wear it, because it was like then part of it. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember as a kid watching that show religiously.
Mm-hmm. I watched it too. Reruns probably at that time, for sure. But
for me, it was first time on.
When was it? When was it on for the first time?
Oh, jeez. I'm thinking 74, 73, somewhere there.
So that's around when I was born, because I was 72.
Yeah.
So I was seeing reruns in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. It went into the 80s, but...
That'd make Tim laugh when I said that that's when I was born. It's like 73. You're a youngin'. You act all...
I was a sophomore in high school.
When I said that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It is funny, right? Like, I was in a position at times when I was hiring people, like at work, and they were born when I had graduated college and was just kind of going out into the world, like graduating college, you know?
Yeah.
And these are people that were just like born at that time. And you take note of those things. You're like, oh my God, I was born at that time, or I was in high school at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it creeps up on all of us.
Yeah, I remember my wife telling me that when she first started teaching, she was just a new teacher her first year. And one of the teachers that she in her building, she mentioned is like, I started teaching. And it's like, my wife said, oh, that was the year I was born. And she just got mad.
Well, uncomfortableness when not so much with the other person, but like, have you ever been in a situation where you mentioned something that would have absolutely, if you were there at the time, you would have known it? So I could say this: Huey Lewis in the News. Like, you talk about a Huey Lewis in the News song with someone, and they look at you like you're from another planet. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's no different than like my parents. Like, they know music that are not hits and that I know about from like the 50s and the 60s. That it's not the Beatles, it's not Elvis, it's not like, the Monkees. It's not like a horde of things I know about in life, like in the 60s. Because I like 60s music, but it's like, and it's not even Jan and Dean, like, it's somebody that like I'd never heard of. But I guarantee you, if I lived then, and I was like alive and a teenager and up at that time, I would have known it, And that's kind of like what Huey Lewis in the News, I think, is like, or that's like what for the 80s, that's like there's just so many, that you can just say like that people that they didn't stand the time of generations, where like other further generations, unless they have a special interest in it, they don't really know it. But it's kind of funny, right? It makes you ever have that? Did you guys ever have a moment like that where you're like, oh my God, like I'm from a different world?
Oh,
yeah.
God. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where somebody will mention something and it's like, oh, you hear about this old show? And it's like, I watched that live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're actually bringing up something you know about. How about you bringing something up and then looking at you like you're just amazed that they don't know?
Yeah.
Like like something happens and you reference something from a show and they look at you like, what?
Yeah. Like they were not there. Yeah. I mean, like you were decades apart from them and they have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. You're just like, you're talking a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
Just think,
yeah. I
sooner
found
or later that'll be about games too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be playing and talking about games. There's people that have probably never even heard of BattleTech. And if Rusty brought that up somewhere, even in a gaming circle, there would be young people there and be looking like, what?
Oh, you bring up Mech Warrior. He'll know it a bit more because of the video game.
Oh, yeah, the video game. Yeah.
Well, you know what I think the big deal is? It's not It's not after it's happened a couple of times. It's the first couple of times it happens. You know, like where you reference something and you start to realize that you're bridging time now. Like, you know, like you're talking to someone and like they happen to be younger than you and you realize, yeah, like I am that guy now. Like I didn't realize I was, but now I am.
Yes. I am that guy, that old guy.
That ancient piece of dirt.
Jangmaster says apparently Mickey Dolenz was up for the Fonz character too. Oh,
See that?
did not know that.
There were
There's a lot
several.
of trivia there.
Yeah. He did an interview not too long ago on television, I saw, and he was talking about all the people that they wanted to do that role before him.
I'll be honest. Who the heck is Mickey Dolenz?
Well, I just looked it up because I am so bad. Like for somebody that loves movies and shows and music, you'd think that I would be really good with actors' names and directors, but at times I can be horrible. But he's with the Monkees, which I totally know who he is in his face.
Oh, okay.
He was like one of
Put
the
it in those
one
terms
of the
now,
Monkees.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you actually saw his face, you know exactly who he is. But I didn't know him by name, and so right now. Jangmaster's thinking like now I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable because I was the only one that knew who Mickey Dolenz was.
Yeah.
Now I'm being made to feel uncomfortable.
Now, when you put it in context, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Now I know who you're talking about.
Axe Annex says the baggy pants of my high school days are once again fashionable in today's high school students. Are you referring to the parachute pants or like the big stretchy colorful pants of the early 90s? The big baggy ones that had like zebra stripes and lines and stuff. I know exactly what you're talking about if that's what you mean.
Oh my God.
So Tim, are you telling me you didn't go to the gym in the early 90s like with a t-shirt and big baggy pants working out?
No.
You.
No.
That's a negatory, Ghost Rider.
No. Oh my God. There's a reference for you.
He says, and I want some. Oh, he's saying rave pants. So I'm not sure that could be past my time because if that's 90s, then I was in school at the time and like I exited out of culture for a little bit. When I went to college, I was like, you'd think that I was in the middle of it, but I was like so like into school at that time that I just was like completely, well, I guess I listened to a little bit of 90s music, but I kind of exited out.
Nerd.
Zumbas is what Jangmaster says.
No, I do.
So they're called Zumbas. I can see it here. Yeah. Okay. Xanax says, I'm a young dude. I'm only 45. You're not that much younger than me, but you are more than 5 years. And so I definitely think that there was a little bit, because I went to high school in the late 80s. And so things changed quick between the...
He's 22 years younger than I am, so...
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, though, like late 70s, even 60s, but late 70s to like 90s, there was a tremendous change in the way people dressed and what they listened to and like lots of things at that time. Whereas I found like between 2000, and I don't even think, I used to think this was just because I'm getting older, but between 2000 and like 2020, culturally and fashion and like lots of things, I don't think there was nearly as much change as 2000 to 2020. I don't think there was nearly as much change. If you want to compare the bell bottoms to the 70s and the punk rock to like hair, everybody dressed in like hair bands to like grunge, like you go through all of that, and that's just from like, that's not like considering the hip hop and like all the other stuff. But like, if you just go through all of that, I think it's a lot. There was a lot. It was a lot more variation. during that time period from like a cultural perspective, like in the West, like, you know, like in the way people express themselves compared to 2000 to 2020. It was very subtle.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yeah.
And actually, I've had other people say this. I noticed this, and I thought it was me. Like, I thought I was the one. I was like, you're just getting old. Like, that's a sign that you're getting old, Palmer. Like, that you don't see the difference. But then other people started talking about it and, like, legitimately calling this out. And I was like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there is something to be said about that word, cultural. The only thing, not even music really changed.
So I'm not sure if it's the Mech Warrior talking or Rusty right now. Because he froze.
It's
I thought it was
it's
the
like,
elemental. I thought it was the elemental because that's what's in full view.
Which one? That guy?
Anyway, that's actually
they come with like
we're
little
off.
ups with the little.
We're kind of off the wargaming, and I know we're coming to a close for the show soon. But that was like an interesting topic. Like just that whole, to me, that's interesting. Like that whole generational, how it was different, like across the decades. But in the way that the variety and just how that's changed.
Mm-hmm.
I've dipped in and had a second from this port.
Yeah, how you feeling?
As if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I knew that I was going to be managing the comments tonight, so I just painted a couple of bases. You know, painting the Snotlings, all 6 of them on one base, you have to go between so many of them. You know, that all I did was 3 while we were talking, and I still have to do the edges with Goblin Green, but all I did was 3 of them for the whole show. I did less than what I thought I would do, but it was mainly because I was kind of, you know, into the show and the comments and topics and stuff, and so that's totally fine.
You're multitasking, so we'll forgive you.
Mini multitasking, considering I only got 3.
The multis of minis.
So, anyways, I'd like to thank everybody that's joined us for the live chat. That always makes the show much better. When we actually have folks making cool comments and, you know, like bringing up
being
stuff
engaged in the topic, that's always helps. I mean, I love hearing what everybody else is saying, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That can help, you know, everything along,
and without making
to think about too, what, you know.
Absolutely, and without actually making this a whole nother topic, as I think it could be, we're all just normal guys, like normal wargamers and normal guys. And a lot of times when people just come on YouTube as a wargamer, they look at channels and they give them reverence greater than what they deserve. You know what I mean? Like, and like, because they're on a video, they must be like a superstar at what they do. But we're like, I don't know. I'm a normal guy. I don't want to call you guys normal guys, but I consider myself like a normal guy, like just like any other wargamer that's out there. And so oftentimes we will have people on the channel, like in the comments, that know stuff that we don't know. Like, you know what I mean? And bring up stuff like factual stuff about games, played games more than we have, like all that stuff. And so I find having the comments and people joining live chat just enhances the show dramatically.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, we're just a bunch of knuckleheads.
And I think it's good for them because they can stay involved. They know that we're going to eventually talk about whatever they've mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been on I haven't been on them, but I've watched podcasts where there's so many viewers and comments that and some really good comments and stuff get missed.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have time to do them.
Yeah. I like the balance that we have. I feel like, I mean, like, I don't know how people in the comments feel, but I feel like we try to make a point to get to them because of how important they are. So for the show.
Yeah, they are important. I mean, we could sit on Zoom and kind of do the same thing and just chit chat all night long while we're painting and stuff. But this is a lot more fun. This is a lot more interactive with every. It's on, instead of having 3 of us, I feel like we've got us plus all those guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we can go, oh, that's great. Let's talk about that too. You know?
I mean, talking about a 3D printer mustache.
Oh yeah,
that's a first. I mean, you know, like, but it's important, you know, as a 3D printer, I kind of value the style of mustache I have.
You know what? I bet if you go online, you can find you one of those files that has a mustache you could 3D print.
Well, you know, us 3D printers
have a mistake trimming it up. You got a fake one you can put on.
Yeah, us 3D printers as a group, we have our own style of mustache. Rusty hasn't picked up on it yet because he's not part of the. He does a 3D printing, but he doesn't. So well, just as we're headed,
gingers have a hard time with the facial hair anyway. So,
what Axanic says as we're heading out is live stream without an audience sucks. Thanks for the hangout. And ever attended a live stream where the host ignored the audience? Totally sucks. yeah. That's kind of what you guys were saying. So
why even bother watching if you're not going to interact?
Yeah, exactly. So all right, everybody.
Some really sterling stuff going on to watch, and then not, you know, get into the comments and stuff like that.
Exactly. Well, it's been colorful tonight too. Like we're all from different places now, and
yes,
like Rusty's literally like living on a hobby table with his BattleTech, which is very appropriate. And you know, Tim is in like one of the scariest places ever in fantasy literature, and I'm actually in the old Musty Lounge, I should say, not Heresy Lounge, from like season 5 or season 6. I don't know if you remember, Rusty, but this is like 5 or 6 that this was our hangout. Yeah. So I thought this was cool as a background. So, all right, everybody, have a good one, and we will see you most likely a couple weeks, right, guys?
Yeah, should be in a couple weeks.
Yep. So over at Rusty's channel, Elcrex. So
all right, we'll see
you.
Take
care, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
See you, everybody.
Now it asks me 2 questions.